Halloween as being the first film that sort of fulfilled what I'd liked to do when I was starting out. And I had worked on all these drive-in movies, and they were a good place to learn, but they never really sort of fulfilled what I had hoped to do, which is become a visual storyteller. Instead of just using the cameras to record cars blowing up and chases and girls with machine guns and stuff. Halloween was more about using the camera to tell the story, to get the audience emotionally involved. John wanted to be a visual storyteller, and it was certainly his early starting. I wanted to do the same. Struggled sometimes to try to get directors on previous films to do storytelling, shot dolly shots and things, but John was absolutely all about that. One of the things that most impressed me about working on Halloween was the fact that we had a lot of autonomy. The producers were, seemingly pretty trusting. I think that Mustafa Akkad had seen John's, previous film, Assault on Precinct 13. And so, as I was told by Deborah and John, they had been approached by Mustafa, who said, I want to make a movie with babysitters being killed on Halloween night. And John and Deborah said, oh, okay, now, so who are these people? What do they, no. Just make me a movie, babysitters being killed on Halloween night. See you later. Eventually it became the largest grossing indie film, dollar in for dollar out, because our budget was minuscule, of almost all time until, recently, ticket prices have gone up, and so there's more films that make more money. But for what it was and for, what we did, it was hugely successful. After Halloween, it was decided that it was perfect for a sequel. So Halloween 2 followed the legacy of Michael Myers and Laurie Strode and others, set in a new environment, but sort of continuing the story. And so when John and Deborah agreed to make the sequel, John and Deborah producing, part of the deal was that I would also work on it to keep a consistent look and so forth. So I did. Halloween 3, they tried an experiment, which is can they do a film that the connection really is just Halloween itself, not the same characters. And it was, I think, disappointing to the audience because they said, where's Michael Myers? But it was a worthy effort, I think, by a lot of us. The success of Halloween certainly validated John's abilities, and I like to think that what I had contributed was noticed also. So I think it was pretty quickly after that they decided to make another movie. It was interesting because it was, in fact, a ghost story more than it was a horror film. So it was, for us, it was a chance to go a little different direction, but still stay within the, the successful genre that we'd started on. I was very pleased and excited by the prospect of Escape from New York. It was a different story. It was still action, adventure. But the characters it was a very heightened reality. We were going to create the feeling of, New York, different time, different place, and the whole, environment around the characters, the prisoners, Kurt Russell as Snake, and so forth. It was going to be a really completely creative visual enterprise. The Thing, well, I think we all had a sense that it was going to be sort of bigger and better. You know, the story had been established. We knew we were going to do a little different take on it, and as we got into production, it was evident that we were going to have enhanced production value. Now to see the final version with the music and the mood and the color corrections that we do as part of the process, to me it was like one of those great moments, because I came from low budget films where we were lucky to have a certain level of production quality, and a certain amount of shots that barely made a scene work. So to look at The Thing and to see what we had accomplished with, still with our sort of low budget sensibilities, but the added facilities and things that we were able to have, to look at the film and realize that we had again accomplished something that was more than we had thought. So it was for me a step into the major studios. There was a period where we got out of sync. So I got a phone call, again, I think it was from my agent, who said that John was doing a fairly major studio production over at Fox, and he wanted to know if I was available and interested. And I said, yeah, I'd love to do the film. One of the things that John had wanted to do was to make an American kung fu movie. And so he had invited some of the Chinese guys who did those in Hong Kong over to talk about and supervise the fights. And I remember looking at sequences that were pretty remarkable. And John saying, well, how can we do this? The production design on Big Trouble in Little China was done by John Lloyd, who was this really accomplished, and to us an older guy, and very, very talented. And he to me, he was a great revelation, because he would build things like forced perspective hallways, so they looked like they went on forever, but they actually got smaller and smaller physically. All kinds of little tricks like that. So it was like working in old Hollywood, but for us it was contemporary Hollywood. Now it's old Hollywood again. So when I saw the sketches and drawings and so forth, and read the script and started to apply that information to it, I said, wow, this is going to really be interesting. And he had sketches of these great big statues and all kinds of really unusual perspective on the world of Little China underneath the San Francisco streets, apparently. So I got very enthusiastic about what was going to happen, and how to take a realistic look at the above ground world. And then when they went into the below ground Little China, to sort of enhance that without it being over the top. It still had to be accessible, I think, to an audience as being plausible, a world that could exist. But still, you know, it's a lot of gold and red and all kinds of shapes and colors. So it provided the opportunity to do some very interesting stuff. And again, it's the kind of thing I really enjoy doing. So I think it was, I enjoyed it very much. It was for us, a zany romp, as the film turned out to be.
You will come out no more.
What? Huh? What'll come out no more?
Kurt's probably one of the worst. Oh wait, that's going to get out again, isn't it? Somebody's going to put that clip on that thing. That's not true, Kurt. You know, I have to say, whenever I'm asked about which actors I've enjoyed working with, you know, Kurt's always one of the top guys. A true professional. You know, he came from a history, a legacy of being a child actor. So, as a result, you know, he takes it as a craft as much as an art. So there's no pretensions about him, and he I think he really enjoys doing you know, the kinds of characters he's done on John's films. You know, they're quirky, they're potentially over the top. You know, and he really did that on Big Trouble in Little China. Escape also he did. You know, great character, but completely different. You know, dark and brooding compared to Jack in from Big Trouble in Little China. You know, so to me it was always a lot of fun to see what he was going to do, where he was going to go.
All right, where's my truck? I'm out of here.
You don't want to go back there. Isn't your truck insured?
Of course it is. That's not the
Then
point.
Smart Man gets it later.
Smart man calls the cops.
Cops got better things to do than get killed.
Oh, yeah? So do I.
John was a little dismayed as we were shooting because even though I didn't directly hear it, I think the studio was a little confused by the tone of the movie. And, you know, it was, you know, in retrospect, I have to say that, you know, the tone we took was, I think, it makes it stand out more than a lot of contemporary movies that took themselves seriously. And so it's a case of, you know, the studio not quite seeing a film that's a little different than what they had thought and saying, oh, well, yeah, that could be interesting, that'll work. I think the fact that after Big Trouble in Little China, John went back to, you know, smaller films because his satisfaction was less rewarding. You know, his experience was less rewarding, and I had opportunities that I took on some larger projects. So I think it was just a case of circumstances that you know, allowed us to pursue our particular interests. You know, as I look back on the Carpenter films, I don't know if there's any that I can say I'm particularly fonder of. I have a lot of great memories and satisfaction off of all of them, each one, and I think that's partly because you know, John was always making a different film, a different version of suspense, perhaps, but there was always, you know, different spin on things. You know, you look at Big Trouble in Little China compared to Halloween, you know, complete opposites of, but still, you know, certain sensibilities of well, using the camera to tell the story, to get the audience involved with the characters and the emotion of a particular sequence or film. So each film had its own merits, its own, you know, rewards, and so there's nothing I can look at in any particular film and say I like it better than the others because each one has had its own life and was rewarding in its own way to me.